Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Janae Norman. Here are the top 5 things to know this Tuesday. Number 1, severe weather in the southern plains after at least 17 twisters touched down across 5 states.
A tornado hit within city limits in Mangum, Oklahoma, significantly damaging homes and vehicles. Meanwhile, a rare double tornado was spotted just north of Oklahoma City.
Now, in addition to the damaging winds and hail, parts of Oklahoma are in a flash flood emergency with more than 6 inches of rain already falling in some areas.
Number 2, as President Trump faces new legal woes in Washington, he's hitting the road to rally supporters in the race for 2020.
The president stopped in Pennsylvania Monday, talking up his economic and employment accomplishments for taking direct aim at former Vice President Joe Biden.
Don't forget, Biden deserted you. He's not from Pennsylvania. I guess he was born here, but he left you, folks.
Biden is a Pennsylvania native who may win over white working-class voters who fueled Trump's narrow victory in that state in 2016.
We head to the East Coast for number 3, where there's a new shark warning for beachgoers just days before the start of the summer season.
A great white named Cabot was tracked just off the coast of Connecticut and New York City, swimming alarmingly close to a popular vacation destination.
This is the first time a great white has ever been tracked in the area, sparking new concerns for beach towns that depend on summer tourism.
Be on the lookout. On to number 4, the Golden State Warriors are headed to the NBA Finals for the 5th consecutive year.
They swept the Blazers, beating them 119 to 117 in overtime last night. Steph Curry and Draymond Green both had triple-doubles.
They're the first team since the Celtics in the 1960s to go to the 5 straight finals. What did the
Dynasty.
5 fingers say to the face?
Finally, number 5. Some Florida neighborhoods are battling an unusual infestation.
Iguanas are taking over a community near Fort Lauderdale, with one man saying he has dozens of the non-native reptiles lurking on his property, digging holes, damaging swimming pools, and even chasing people.
In response, some chefs have decided to take matters into their own hands by writing iguana cookbooks. Iguana is a delicacy in some countries. In the Caribbean, iguana is called chicken of the trees. We've got a lot more to talk about coming your way.
If you want to know more, just know it's Morning America. Good morning, everyone. So, the comment section on our video yesterday, we asked you to sound off about Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And what would you do now if you know
What you're looking forward
what
to
you're
now
looking
that
forward
it's
to.
over.
And we found out a lot of you were like, never watched it, never seen one single episode.
You guys couldn't even play
Y'all were
along.
sounding off like crazy on that one.
Yeah, you guys sounded like us
And we loved
almost.
every single comment.
Thank you very much for interacting with us.
Including this one right here from this guy who said,
this one from this guy.
quote, I'm looking forward to less tweets about watching Game of Thrones.
Which we were ready to be those
Like, that's
internet
not
trolls
grammatically
like, well,
correct.
how about your grammar? But we guess it's an inside joke.
Inside joke. Apparently,
So-
King Stannis would say fewer, which would be the right way. Look at
Very clever, our
GOT had
friends.
the grammar correction and everything.
Yeah, we're down with that. So from Game of Thrones now to the big story this morning. The growing calls for impeachment proceedings to begin as President Trump frustrates Democrats looking for answers in the aftermath of the Mueller report. A lone Republican congressman is now saying the president obstructed justice and should be impeached.
Meanwhile, the president has suffered a new legal setback in his efforts to block Democrats from looking into his finances. ABC's Mona Kosar Abdi is in Washington. She managed to avoid all GOT spoilers yesterday. She was talking about it on Twitter. And that's good news for us because she's in this morning to talk about our big story involving the president. Good morning, Mona.
Good morning. I can't talk about that battle, but I can talk about the battle over the House Oversight Committee subpoena. It was supposed to be the first test to the president's vow to fight all congressional subpoenas, and it likely won't be the last.
President Trump in campaign mode as he touched down in Pennsylvania.
From now until November 3rd, 2020, we are going to keep on working. We are going to keep on fighting.
For Trump, that fight includes stonewalling ongoing efforts by Democrats to probe his administration and his business.
They all knew there was no collusion. I come to the great state of Pennsylvania and I say, oh, I need some help. Let me call, let's see, Russia. Let's call Russia. It's the greatest hoax ever perpetrated. on this country.
But it was the president who was dealt the first legal blow by a federal judge in his lawsuit to block a congressional subpoena. The judge signing with the Democratic-led panel seeking a decade's worth of his personal finances. But the small victory isn't enough to curb the growing calls within the Democratic Party to start an impeachment inquiry against Trump.
We have a president that is actively trying to cover up and prevent the American people from getting to the truth, and that's not something I think we can tolerate.
ABC News has learned on Monday House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was confronted by top Democrats on the issue in a tense closed-door meeting. And now one of those calls is coming from the Republican Party. Congressman Justin Amash of Michigan states after reading the Mueller report, he believes Trump engaged in impeachable conduct.
I think it's a process, and it's something that should be begun.
And the president is also blocking former White House counsel Don McGahn from testifying before Congress today. The White House instructed McGahn to ignore a congressional subpoena. Now, Democrats are calling the move the latest act of obstruction from the president. Janae, Kenneth?
So many battles waging there in Washington. Mona, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, President Trump's former fixer and attorney Michael Cohen told lawmakers the president's legal team knew he lied to Congress.
According to newly released transcripts of Cohen's closed-door meeting with the House Intelligence Committee, Cohen claimed current Trump lawyer Jay Sekulow suggested that he tell the panel that talks about a Trump Tower Moscow ended at an earlier date. Cohen also said Sekulow raised the prospect of a pardon, and he believed the president was aware of the discussions.
The FBI and several other federal agencies are investigating the death of a 16-year-old boy from Guatemala who died in U.S. custody. The teen entered the U.S. illegally last Monday. He was diagnosed with the flu over the weekend and was found unresponsive yesterday. Immigrant advocates are asking why he was held for 6 days instead of being transferred to a shelter. He's the fifth minor from Guatemala to die after being picked up by border agents since December.
Ford Motor Company says it's reorganizing, but whatever the term, it adds up to job cuts for the big three automaker.
Thousands of Ford workers worldwide are being let go, including more than 2,000 in the U.S. ABC's Brad Mielke is working on this story. Brad.
Hey guys, that's right. Ford employees have reportedly called this Armageddon. 10% of the company's workforce is about to be gone, and 500 people in Michigan are about to learn their fate this week. Now, these are actually white-collar jobs, designers, managers. Auto experts say Ford was overdue for a house cleaning, but it comes at a crucial moment for the entire auto industry. Now, I spoke to Phoebe Wall-Howard. She covers the auto industry for the Detroit Free Press, and she says this has nothing to do with the nation's impending free trade deals. She does say this has everything to do with other countries.
The CEOs, I think, of every company are saying that the future is about collaboration. It's why Ford Motor Company is talking to Volkswagen. It's why every single automaker, domestic and foreign, is partnering up to cut costs, because the future is about autonomous vehicles, driverless vehicles, electrification, and a lot of money is required to get there.
So it sounds like there is an international component here. You're just saying, like it or not, these cars are not going to be made in the U.S. from top to bottom.
Exactly. And even the ones in North America, they're going back and forth, the parts over the borders, like 6, 7, 8 times between Mexico, Canada, and the U.S.
And she says auto executives aren't just thinking about making new types of cars, they're also looking at a potential economic downturn on the way. They need to get smaller quick. We'll have a lot more on Start Here later this morning. Listen on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. Janae, Kenneth?
Thank you, Brad. And the measles epidemic in the U.S. is still going strong with 880 cases confirmed now. 41 more cases were reported last week, 30 of them in New York State. And most of them were in the New York metro area where there are large Orthodox Jewish communities. Some religious leaders are campaigning against the measles vaccine. Cases have now been recorded in 24 states.
And Sesame Street is welcoming its newest and first ever foster Muppet. Carly, along with her 2 for now parents, Dahlia and Clem, appear in online videos.
Sesame Workshop noted in a release that nearly 443,000 children spent time in foster care, which translates into 6 out of every 1,000 kids.
Love, love, love when Sesame Street does this, reflecting reality, really.
And families across this country.
Yes. Well, coming up, one graduate celebration goes viral for all the wrong reasons.
We'll break it down and see what he broke after this. Let's go across the pond to foreign correspondent Julia McFarlane in the London Bureau. Good morning, Julia. Let's start with Venezuela, where the embattled President Nicolas Maduro is calling for early elections.
Hey guys, yeah, that's right. So Nicolas Maduro was speaking at a rally. It's 1 year since his controversial re-election last year. Now, don't forget that election result was disputed by the head of the National Assembly, who is the opposition leader Juan Guaido. Remember, he is internationally recognized by more than 50 countries, including the United States and the vast majority of Latin American countries. Now, Nicolas Maduro has called for a re-election, an early election of the National Assembly. He says he wants a new mandate. And he says that we're going to measure ourselves electorally. We're going to bring forward the elections. Now, it remains to be seen whether they're going to, whether that's going to reinstate his party, because his Socialist Party collapsed in the National Assembly, and Juan Guaido, of course, has been contesting the presidency for a number of months now.
And that's something we'll continue watching. And Julia, Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I actually just before we go to Saudi Arabia, I just wanted to I wanted to bring up that a few days ago, last week, economists actually pointed out that Venezuela's economic collapse is worse than the collapse of Zimbabwe and worse than the collapse of the Soviet Union. Wow. So there's a huge amount at stake. So I just wanted to just put that across.
Important point there.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. So Saudi Arabia claims to have intercepted 2 missiles, and that comes amid heightened tensions with Iran. So what do we know about that right now?
So the Saudi embassy in Washington, they sent out a tweet saying that they had intercepted 2 missiles they believe were deployed by the Houthis, and they landed in Mecca province. Now, this is really important, guys, because at the moment we are in the holy month of Ramadan. More than 2 million Muslims from around the world are expected to travel to Saudi Arabia for the Hajj, for that holy pilgrimage at the end of Ramadan. And of course, Mecca is the center of Islam. That's where Islam's holiest sites are. So this is really, really worrying. Recently, there were another couple of drone strikes, which the Houthis did claim responsibility for, those targeting a couple of oil pumping stations. Now, the Houthis say they are not behind these latest missiles or drones that were sent targeting sites in Mecca. The Iranians have denied that they have anything to do with it as well, but the Saudis are pretty vociferously blaming the Houthis for this.
Julia, I knew this was going to happen, that we were going to get a Game of Thrones series finale before Brexit was concluded. In the bet of which one was going to happen first.
Guys, I don't know if I want to talk about Game of Thrones, if I'm honest.
You saw the finale.
I saw the finale.
Oh my God, are you too heartbroken?
You could pick between Brexit or Game of Thrones finale. Which one do you want?
I think I'm gonna stick with Brexit, if I'm honest. Have you guys seen the finale? How do you feel about it?
Meh.
He stole that from the Detroit Free Press. We have not watched it, Julia.
You're
have
fun then.
Were you disappointed?
Let's leave that for another day, shall we? It's a sore subject, guys. Too soon.
So what you got with Brexit then?
Well, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but you know that colourful British politician who's friends with the president, Nigel Farage. He had a little surprise waiting for him when he was campaigning up in northern England. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this apparently is a thing. There are a couple of right-wing politicians who have had the same treatment. This treatment was, according to the guy who threw it, a Five Guys salted banana caramel milkshake, which he paid about $7 for. And he said he was looking forward to drinking it, but he thought it went to a more fitting end, in his own words. Now, I don't know what the significance of a milkshake is. People on Facebook are talking about lactose against intolerance. Nice little pun there for you, but Mr. Farage was not very happy for it. He is a divisive politician, but hey, a lot of people back him, and his party is looking to do really well in the European elections.
Well, no matter your politics, I don't know why you waste a good milkshake. And
I mean, I would accept it to drink it, but I wouldn't want to wear it.
Yeah.
I do hear the milkshakes do bring all the protesters to the yard.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's better than yours.
Yeah.
Julia, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, our friend. We
Thanks,
appreciate it. So let's check our notifications, and starting with...
You're pointing to me. Booty selfies, not something I was familiar with before this morning. Social influencers sharing tips for the greatest belfies. You know, booty selfies. She lays it all out. But still, however she's posing, it's nothing compared to the Reverend Al Sharpton, who has the greatest belfie of all time.
I don't know if he intended, to show off a belfie there, but
he did it, and we thank him for it.
That's a good one right there.
Yeah.
How about this? One graduate decided to celebrate with a backflip. It didn't go very well. Wait for it. Wait for it. And... Ooh, he stuck the landing, everyone.
Gosh.
Or not so
Of all the
much.
things he learned in college, it wasn't gymnastics. And here comes the baby elephants. Look at him.
On the way back to the shelter after getting a good meal, and perfect time for a selfie as well.
Yeah.
I would definitely get that picture.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Baby elephants, baby elephants.
Anything for the gram.
Oh, little
and
Dumbo.
a beard competition. Finest facial hair in the world on display. World Beard and Mustache Championship going down in Belgium. That's some pretty impressive facial hair.
It's for men, it's for women.
There was a women division.
As well.
Uh-huh.
There you go. If I had one of those beautiful stashes, I'd make those ends so pointy.
Yeah, you would? You'd curl them up?
Just curl them right on up. But this is all I got. That's all I'm working with.
That's all right, Mr.
No flavor
Data
saver for me. But that does bring us to the question of the day. Do you think you have what it takes to compete in the World Beard and Mustache Championships? Tweet your fabulous facial hair pics at ABC News Live, and maybe we'll feature some on the air. This is finally a big chance for us to see you.
Yeah.
Show us those beautiful mustaches.
Mustaches.
Even if you don't have one, maybe draw one on.
Yeah, something clever. I know someone who has a mustache tattoo right here. So they go like this.
Oh.
There's a mustache.
There you go.
Do it.
Pretty cool.
And watch this Frenchie's soccer skills as he dribbles by all these kids. Poor kids.
Yeah.
We're coming up a daunting journey to the ground zero of climate change.
Scientists' dire warning and what they're learning from whales off Antarctica. After this. Here's what to watch out for today. A special election in Pennsylvania will decide the next congressman to fill the seat left vacant by Tom Marino, who co-chaired Donald Trump's presidential campaign in the state before resigning in January. Former Bachelor star Iowa farmer Chris Soules will be sentenced after pleading guilty to a reduced charge of leaving the scene of a serious injury accident after he was involved in a fatal car crash.
And abortion rights protests are set to take place nationwide. One demonstration at the Supreme Court will draw several 2020 contenders, including Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Bernie Sanders, and Eric Swalwell. Plus, don't forget to tune into the debrief for an update on all our top stories and the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics. The continent of Antarctica has long been used by scientists as a barometer for the world's environmental health.
This morning, in an ABC News exclusive, James Longman takes us to that frozen preserve, which scientists say is now struggling to cope with what they call a human-altered climate.
We've been invited aboard the RCGS Resolute by One Ocean Expeditions and the World Wildlife Fund to travel to Antarctica, ground zero for climate change. But this frigid landscape can be deceptive. It's bearing the brunt of the effects of climate change. Across the Antarctic Peninsula, the ice season has shortened by more than 3 months over the last 40 years, and 87% of the glaciers here are receding. This expedition allows tourists to come face to face with the realities of climate change, seeing science in action. Ari Friedlander and a team of researchers are scanning the horizon, searching for whales. These marine biologists have come from all over the United States to Antarctica to study the pressures facing the humpback and minke whale population. The biopsy samples are taken using a crossbow.
This is the tip that'll collect the skin and the blubber sample from the whale. It'll penetrate in about an inch or so, inch and a half into the animal and get some skin and blubber.
The arrow makes contact, the researchers assuring us that it doesn't hurt the gigantic mammal. These samples revealing plastics, Heavy metals and even flame retardants have made their way into whales' bodies, the tendrils of man stretching even here to the seemingly pristine and remote waters of Antarctica.
This little subsample is about all you need for both the molecular and the hormone work.
Their research is already yielding results. A recent report by the WWF highlights that whales of the Antarctic are facing increased pressures due to commercial krill fisheries and to climate change.
As citizens of the planet, regardless of where you live, we have an obligation to let things be in a way that is unencumbered by our activities.
But a landmark report released by the UN revealed that humans are already altering the world at an unprecedented pace. Over 1 million plant and animal species are now at risk of extinction. Here in the peninsula, many penguin populations are already on the decline. The loss of sea ice is affecting their primary food source, krill. And through funding from the WWF, the researchers are now using the latest technologies available, from satellite tags and drones, to determine how the decline in krill is affecting the whale population. Chris Johnson with the World Wildlife Fund has been instrumental in taking the research data and turning it into policy. Their goal is to protect 30% of the oceans surrounding Antarctica by 2030.
Time is of the essence because a recent report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change said we have 12 years to really fight the impacts of climate change.
During the height of the Cold War, the Antarctic Treaty was signed, designating the continent as a natural reserve for peace and science. And since then, it's been a place where we come to determine the health of the world.
So right up there in 1985 was one of the places that scientists discovered the hole in the ozone layer. It's a pretty special place.
It's an issue that Nightline shed light on in 1992, becoming the first to ever broadcast live from Antarctica.
Scientists say the ozone hole over the area, actually more of a thinning of the ozone layer, is now the largest ever recorded.
Since then, the hole in the ozone has recovered significantly, and it's on its way to healing completely.
It is one of the biggest success stories that we have for nature. I'm hopeful we can fight climate change, both here and at home.
Making a difference to this place from thousands of miles away might seem impossible, but the recovery of the humpback whale is testament to what can be done to save our planet wherever we are. For Nightline, I'm James Longman in Antarctica.
Fascinating to see
really
the real impacts there. It's not something that you just hear about, some abstract idea. It's real, it's impacting our world.
It is important to see it, and I'm so glad that James went there on that long trek to do that, to bring us that report, and brought us a little bit of a silver lining, some positive news that that humpback whale population is seeing some increases there.
And there's still time to change.
There is.
Make it better.
And there's also plenty of time to get a nap in before you have to do whatever you do today.
Yes, that's what we're gonna do.
We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.